Next up in the Hopping Mad box set is Mr. Vampire Saga 4, which is a very streamlined story, this one. A very familiar story. We have, at the start of this, we open up to two households. We have one for a Taoist monk and we have one for a Buddhist monk, and they have a really antagonising relationship. These next door neighbours pretty much despise each other, or the Taoist definitely hates the Buddhist monk, and they go to great lengths to try to antagonise and just basically annoy one another, trying to possess each other, trying to just fight over silly things. And it's very familiar and is very fun as we watch these characters do silly things like come for tea with each other, but that turns into a battle of wills between these two guys as they seemingly try to just fight over everything.
冇見咁耐，我以為你去咗西方極樂添。我去過㗎啦，不過佢哋要我帶埋你去喎。你行得未啊？
Because it lays into such familiar grounds of these relationships, these adversarial neighbours, you kind of get sidelined and realise very early, or forget early on, that there's not really much of a plot happening. We're just watching these two people bounce off each other. They both seem very capable in what they do, and they both kind of negate each other at the same time.
貧僧打算喺度敲經念佛，直至圓寂為止啊！
好，我放長雙眼睇你幾時死。
Now, when a group of people stumble across them as they are travelling through the woods, they are transporting a vampire. They haven't killed it because it's of royal descendancy. They just kind of give their blessings and it moves on. Of course, this is the instigation of what's actually going to happen, because these people aren't taking all the precautions that they should do, and a vampire is unleashed. Now, what I loved about this one is the vampire is very threatening. Very dangerous. It feels lethal in this one. A lot of the times the hopping vampires they kind of avoid them pretty easily, push them over. This vampire is sinking its teeth into people, drinking their blood, decimating armies of people who are trying to stop it. So it feels as if there's a great weight here, and as the vampire feeds, it builds its own army, creating subordinates to help attack these priests, because that's where it's all headed. We're heading back to the priest's house where they're going to have to hold up and defend themselves against these forces of evil. But it's so well done, and we get a great deal of characters. We've got our Taoist priest, we've got our Buddhist priests, we've got their kind of servants that live with them. This guy that lives with the Taoist but really appreciates the Buddhist monk who has this girl working for him now, and they kind of bounce off each other, and you kind of feel like a burgeoning relationship there. In fact, there's a misunderstanding at the start, which is really funny as well. The movie is just easy to watch. It doesn't feel as if it's got an overly complicated plot. It just sets up these great characters and then throws in something to make the situation much worse, and you're watching them try to avoid, fight back and defeat this evil. And it feels like a great evil as well. And that prolonged final sequence against this vampire is just jaw-dropping. It keeps changing into something new every couple of minutes, and it just watching this fight scene evolve and change, and how these people kind of work together, and how their different religions kind of work together to help defeat this vampire was such a joy. I'm pretty sure that after the movie's done, these guys are going to fall back into the habits that they've had, but seeing them come together, appreciate each other and work together to defeat a common purpose was great. Of course, it ends in, as always, like as abruptly as possibly can with these movies, just a funny sequence where someone gets hit, freeze frame, done, but Mr. Vampire Saga 4 was really fun, and primarily down to the characters and their interactions. Very similar to Mr. Vampire 3, where the characters drove the story, but I loved the additional threat of the vampire in this one, where it felt as if people were at real danger. Mr. Vampire Saga 4 was another hit for me. I enjoyed it. I loved checking it out. These are fun, easy to watch movies, and we're on to the final one next, Vampire vs. Vampire. So join me for that review. I'd love to know your thoughts on Mr. Vampire Saga 4. Let me know in the comment box below whether you loved it, hated it, fell somewhere in the middle, if you're enjoying this series as a whole. Quite curious about that. There is more content up here where you can see more of my stuff. In the description box below are links to the Patreon, membership program and manvfilm.com, all ways in which you can support me. Thanks for watching. See you next time.